Let's go to Matt in Oakland. So Steve Kerr is still on the docket, but 5:15. So that is coming up. Let's go to Matt in Oakland. Hi, Matt. Thank you for your patience. What's going on?
How you doing, fellas? Just got my tree. Looking good.
Oh, yeah. How many feet, Matt? How many feet?
We're going 7.
Oh, look at you. You're like the opposite of the Warriors roster.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Listen,
Thank you, Matt.
A couple of quick comments. I have a question. Anyway, Klay and Wiggs were terrible last night. They took 25 shots for 20 points, 1 personal foul. That's not engaged. And who says they deserve to keep starting? And furthermore, who says that if they pull them now, that they can't put them back later? Anyway, I don't think these guys are going anywhere. I don't see any trades out there that I like. What do you guys think of the kid from Utah? What's his name? Mark, the Finnish guy.
Oh, you talking about Markkanen?
Yeah. I mean, they stink.
Right, but
get him and further.
Yeah, no, you can't. You can't get Markkanen. Like, just because Matt, thanks so much. It's an interesting call. Just because someone stinks doesn't mean they're looking to get rid of all their good players all the time. So, largely when I look at this right now, this is worth our time for a second or two, because whenever things aren't working, especially with a team that's got a lot of name value, I do hear people a lot go, we got to make a trade. What trade? What is out there? First of all, it's December. Nobody's even really thinking about trade.
Sure.
Unless you got someone who's like, you got to get me out of here. I don't know about the Zach LaVine thing, but we've already gone over Zach LaVine, who is a terrible defender. What trade is it, do you think, is even possible that makes sense for both teams, makes the Warriors better, lickety-split, doesn't blow up the finances that they've already rebooted by acquiring Chris Paul? My brain shuts off when people go, they got to make a trade. I'm like, there isn't one.
Oh, it's easy. There's a slam dunk of a trade, and you're too chicken. You and Mike Dunleavy are too afraid to make it.
Let's go. Let me hear it.
It's Pascal Siakam. You trade Chris Paul. You got to package Jonathan Kuminga and a couple of firsts, and you get Pascal Siakam. You're better, and it probably means you part company with Klay at the end of next year.
You think that's out there? Toronto wants to do that?
Toronto's not very good. So if you can give Toronto an asset, and Siakam is in the final year of his deal, he's making $38 million. So you'd give up Kuminga, you'd give up Chris Paul, which is basically they're taking the money, and you'd probably have to throw in a first-round pick and maybe a little bit more, and you get Pascal Siakam, and you give it a go.
And that does what in the second half of the year?
It gets you a little bit more length and athleticism, and gets you another guy who can go out there and score, because right now Chris Paul he's a diminishing asset, and he's not going to be on your team next year anyway.
Okay, now who's running the second unit and stopping all those turnovers from happening?
The second unit?
Yeah.
You got Podziemski.
Okay.
You get the youngster in there.
Okay. You're going to put the rookie in there.
Corey Joseph, right?
Run the show.
Kojo.
Okay.
You got Kojo.
I've heard very many people say anything that they really love about Corey Joseph so far this year.
Steve has said a lot about Corey Joseph.
Yeah, but he's talking mainly
about steadying veteran presence.
Right. He's talking mainly about off the floor. Because that's usually where Corey is, off the floor.
Wow.
I mean, it's true.
He's playing 11 minutes a night.
I don't have anything against Corey Joseph, but
he's not playing a ton.
Yeah, I don't think you want to suddenly highlight him as the guy with the ball in his hands for a third of the game. I don't know about that. Like, your idea is not horrible. It's like, okay, then where are you? You know, you make a deal like that because you think it's the last thing that you need to do in order to contend for a title. But if you're not going to do that, well, then it's not worth it.
Well, if you're going to...
You're signing up for, again, yeah, you'll reboot financially a little bit, but what is it you're going to do now at the end of the year with both Klay and Siakam being free agents?
Well, Siakam would probably be a rental, and Klay is going to, if Klay wants to stay, he's going to have to take a massive pay cut. And we could play the game right now of Klay payday. What's Klay's payday right now, based on what we've seen through 21 games, Klay Thompson is making, and I want to make sure I get the number.
I think it's 43.
Yeah, it's 43 and change. I believe it's sniffing 44. It's 43.2. So Klay's making 43.2 million to play how he's playing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think right now? What's Klay's current deal if he was to sign today? 3 and 60? Or is that an overpay?
Ha! An overpay.
I mean, have you looked at the numbers? And I know you're citing of late.
Oh, I know the numbers.
I mean, they're bad, Mark.
Have you looked at Klay's face when you offer him 3 for 60?
Okay, how about 3 for 55, Klay? Does that change your tune?
You want to bench me?
39.7% from the floor.
I get it. You don't need to give me
35% from 3.
That's not the point.
15.5 points a game, lowest since his rookie year.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Do you think that what you just cited resonates with Klay Thompson?
What does resonate with Klay Thompson?
I don't know. But somebody who's having press conferences where they're taking very innocuous questions and turning them into whether or not he's being questioned as a starter still is not somebody who on his way to the Hall of Fame wants to go out there and take a third of what his Splash Brother teammate makes. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that the data in this particular case may not resonate with the client. That's what I'm saying.
I get that.
And if your answer is then bye-bye Klay, fine. Fine. You're allowed to say that.
Among qualified players, he is 5th from the bottom in field goal percentage. Only Spencer Dinwiddie, Jordan Hawkins, Keegan Murray, and Fred VanVleet have a worse field goal percentage than Klay Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that Klay wants to go out in a certain way, but that's not where we are. So does Klay want to go out and be a free agent and take, 3 and 70 elsewhere? Is there a team out there that's going to give him $25 million a year based on how he's playing?
I wouldn't think right now, but we're doing this in a moment, and that's not,
kind of the bit.
Right.
Is we're doing it in this moment off of this stretch of games, and this stretch of games has not been good.
I'm just looking at other players who are making $20 million a year in the NBA.
Okay,
other players who are kind of in the area that you're talking about, right? I mean, that's not nothing. It's not nothing. Terry Rozier makes 22.
Okay.
Bruce Brown makes 22. Mikal Bridges, 21.7. Miles Turner, 20.9. Clint Capella makes 20.6. Lonzo Ball.
He's still playing?
No, he's not. Is making 20.4. Spencer Dinwiddie, 20.3. DeAndre Hunter, 20.08. Keldon Johnson of the Spurs and Bojan Bogdanovic are the and Jared Allen of the Cavs are the 3 players making straight up 20. Now, you can completely get the argument you're trying to make across. I'm telling you that every single fiber of my being and everything we've ever known Klay to think and feel tells me that if you sat him down at the end of the year and tried to put him on that list, he would be offended.
Okay.
And you may well say, then sorry, Charlie. I get it. But
right.
3 and 60 for a guy who's like questioning the
How about 2 and 40? Would that be better, Klay?
Probably not. Probably
because we're not doing 4 and 80. And honestly, even 3 years for Klay it's a bit of an overstretch, in my opinion.
You think Klay is better than Buddy Hield?
Klay better than Buddy Hield? Right now, probably not.
Oof. Ouch.
I mean, let me find Buddy Hield on this list of shooters.
Averaging 13.6 a game.
Shooting it at 46%.
Yep.
And 40% from 3. That's better than Klay. I mean, actually, their numbers are pretty comparable.
Okay, there is a flaw in our conversation, though. a new free agent contract is not based on the stats of the first 21 games of the 2023-24 season.
And it's also not based on the first 12 years of your career.
Correct. But like there is a flaw in our logic if we're thinking that that's how the Warriors would even do this. They're not going to sit Klay down and his agent and be like, all right, so first 21 games, 2023-24, these were your shooting percentages. Like, obviously, we need to see where the next 60-plus games, playoffs.
Absolutely.
We have to see where that all goes. But even still, like contracts are not based on that. They're never based on small sample, and they are speculative.
Right.
So,
and they're also, in many ways, especially in this case, they are, of a nature to where you've been here for so long, you've done so much for us, we want to do right by you in some ways. He's been here for 13 years, 11 of which he played, 2 he missed due to injury.
Mm-hmm.
And, you already paid him some $70 million when he didn't play. So I don't think that the team, quote, owes him anything in terms of honorariums.
I don't think they owe him anything, but I also just, you know the way this works. And like a big piece of this, for example, that has nothing to do with nothing with regard to Klay's performance is the way an organization wants to be viewed amongst free agents.
Sure.
And every team always wants to be known for taking care of their guys. That phrase. And
have they not?
Yeah, they absolutely have.
They took care of him in a way that no team in any other sport would have.
No doubt. But that perception changes on a dime sometimes. I mean, look at the way the 49ers behave when they've drafted a player and after 4 years that player is good. Outside of DeForest Buckner, they refuse to let that guy out of the building. Part of that is we think you're a good football player. Second part of that is, though, they want to build a reputation. They want to take care of their guys. If you're the Golden State Warriors and we live in a what have you done for me lately society, how does the NBA world view it when, sure, they took care of Klay once, they took care of Klay twice, but then they get to the end of his career and all of a sudden they stop starting him and then they lowballed him and an absolute legend of the sport and a future Hall of Famer is unceremoniously shown the door. Do you think the Warriors want that story to become reality?
Well, I think that you're painting an unfair portrayal of the, quote, story, and I don't think that $20 million a year is a low ball when you look at the way he's performed so far. 21 games in, we've got 61 left to go, and if the resulting 61 go the way the first 21 did, then $20 million a year is not a low ball. I mean, and having Klay be a lesser role, having him have a lesser role in the team if he's playing like this, that's not disrespectful.
It depends on what comp you want to use. I mean, if I'm Klay Thompson, I'm like, that absolute show, Jordan Poole is making 28.
And he's 2 spots higher on the field goal percentage list. He's shooting 40.4. And that contract is, that acquisition is looking like an absolute debacle for Washington.
Complete debacle. Because
Jordan Poole, he's averaging 17.5. He's shooting 40%. He's shooting 29.8 from 3, Mark. 29.8%.
But it goes.
And he wanted to be the splash cousin.
But it goes further than that.
Of course. We don't need to make this about how bad Jordan's been.
No.
Because he's been bad.
It's been a clown show.
Completely.
It's been a total clown show.
And Klay has not been a clown show.
Right.
But Klay has been, he's been subpar.
Sure.
And
anyway, I just, that my mind when I think of trade, your idea is fun. I just don't know how realistic any of this is.
Oh, no, it's not. It's totally unrealistic.
Yeah.
Unless you want to, honestly, if you want to trade Paul, Kuminga, and 2 first-round picks, you can actually get a good player in return. I don't think the Warriors are wanting to do that because you're going to get, even if you got Siakam, he's in a walk year, so it's a Pascal Siakam rental. And does he put you from where you are now to being a championship team? Probably not.
We threw this out yesterday, and right at the end of the show, for anybody who was with us, we got a little more space to talk about it now if you want. I don't know, man. I mean, you look at where the Warriors have arrived, and even if you are one of the people who's like, yeah, that's it. Like, just stop this charade that the Warriors are a championship contender. Even if you feel that way, wasn't this kind of inevitable? I feel like this was inevitable. And I don't mean, sure, everything comes to an end. I mean, even the decisions that they've made. If you look at them right now and you're upset because they re-signed Draymond Green or never got a big or never supported the young guys they drafted, all those points that we hear a lot, I would argue that a lot of these things, there wasn't actually a realistic choice. There wasn't. They couldn't keep Jordan Poole. They couldn't keep feeding into the myth that was James Wiseman. And the idea of moving off of all-time greats, fans do this all the time. You make it sound like it's so much easier than it is. And teams flat out don't do it. They do not do it. Well, it's for business reasons more than it's for basketball reasons. I mean, the 49ers got Garoppolo because they called the Patriots. They said, we're not giving you Garoppolo. They said, then give us Brady. And Bill Belichick tried to move off of Brady, and ownership stepped in and said, you're not doing that. We're not getting rid of an all-time great. The only person in this town who's ever sort of had the swagger to be like, we're moving off an all-time great, we're doing it now, was Bill Walsh. That's it. It helped he had an all-time great behind him. Right, but you didn't know that. You didn't know that till he played. You knew he was really, really good. You thought he was good. Yeah. And Joe Montana is still upset to this day. Yeah. That they treated him the way that they did. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. You don't want that narrative out there that someone goes out, has a Hall of Fame career for you, and then you brush him when it's no longer convenient for you. I'm not saying that the Warriors shouldn't do it. I'm not saying that you're wrong if you feel they should. I'm just saying players look at that, and it's something you try to avoid if you can. For sure, there is the long-term effect in terms of reputation, but there's also the short-term effect of what does it do to your bottom line and your ticket sales, your gate, and all the rest of it, because Steph, Klay, and Dre, it rolls off the tongue, and it does for a reason because they've played together for 12 years and they've won 4 championships. So if you don't sign Dre and then Klay's in a walk year and you don't sign Klay, now it's Steph and Podziemski and TJD and, it's Steph and the youngsters, and it just doesn't have the same draw. And we just had a special day on 11/30/23, Klay, Steph, and Draymond Day, and it became a thing because all 3 are still here. Yeah. And so there is definitely a bottom line benefit to having all 3 be here. And you mentioned the inevitability of this. I didn't think that it was going to happen this quickly to where they'd be 10-11, and it feels like you're having to absolutely fight tooth and nail to beat a bad Portland team at home off of 3 days of rest. I'm with you. I was expecting that game last night in 2025. Piece of cake. But in 2 years. Yeah, no, last night should have been a cakewalk. I talked about it for 2 weeks like it was. Thank God they didn't get in the in-season tournament because you get a win on Wednesday because of it. Wednesday. I watched that whole game last night going, oh, God. It was Wednesday. Oh, God. You're going to miss out on the in-season tournament and then take an L against Portland at home? And they almost did. Yeah. They almost did. If it wasn't for Kuminga. Exactly. 17 minutes of Kuminga. It's like I've been saying for months. Yeah, you've been saying it. Play the young guys. You got to. If you want to win a title, you got to ditch these vets. I don't know, man. I don't know. I have a hard time sometimes. I'll admit a flaw. I got a hard time getting all hot and bothered about a team that's won 4 rings that's ended up in a financial and age crisis because I don't really know how they were supposed to avoid that. I don't know how they were supposed to avoid that. You can say they messed up the draft pick here, there, whatever. Sure. You seeing Tyrese Halliburton in this play-in tournament? Yeah, I am. Dude is going off in Vegas. Indy with the upset. I called it. 15 seconds.
This is James Wiseman.
Yeah, there it is. The Pacers are going to win this thing. God, good luck with their banner. I hope it lands on the wall nicely.